December 12, 1943, Tunisia. Private Luigi Rossi of the 136th Armoured Division Centauro crouched in a collapsed dugout as Allied artillery pulverized the German-Italian defensive line. The Afrika Korps' retreat had become a rout, scattering Luigi's unit. When the bombardment ceased, Luigi emerged, hands raised. An American lieutenant directed him to a collection point where other Italian soldiers were already under guard. There was no brutality, only exhaustion. Within hours, Luigi became prisoner, Whitey 4721. Mussolini's propaganda had promised savage American captors. Instead, the soldiers were professional, almost bored. They confiscated his rifle and personal effects, cataloguing everything precisely. One corporal even offered him water, which Luigi hesitantly accepted, his throat raw from thirst. The journey to Oklahoma was a 3-week blur. First, a truck convoy transported them from Tunisia to Algiers. Then Luigi and 800 other Italian POWs boarded a converted Liberty ship crammed into cargo holds for the Atlantic crossing. December storms tossed the vessel and men vomited into buckets. Rations were meagre, hardtack, canned meat and bitter coffee. Luigi kept to himself, sharing a corner with 2 Sicilian infantrymen who whispered dark predictions of labor camps, starvation or execution. Corporal Mancini feared they'd be worked to death in mines, while another suggested they'd be handed to the Soviets. Luigi observed the American sailors, struck by their calm efficiency. They didn't act like conquerors bent on vengeance. After 17 days, the ship docked in Norfolk, Virginia. Guards marched them onto trains. Though through the boxcar slats, Luigi glimpsed his first American city. Brick buildings, abundant automobiles, and civilians in clean clothes. The sheer plenty seemed impossible. Italy had been starving since 1942. The train crossed a continent Luigi only knew from books, 4 days westward through landscapes beyond comprehension. At Camp Alva, Oklahoma, they arrived at endless rows of tar paper barracks surrounded by barbed wire and guard towers. The camp sprawled across flat prairie. Processing took 6 hours, with American officers recording names, ranks, and units. Medical staff examined each prisoner. Luigi stood naked as a doctor checked his teeth, lungs, and skin for lice. He weighed 128 pounds, down from 165. They issued him clean denim trousers, a work shirt, underwear, socks, and boots that fit. His filthy uniform was incinerated. After delousing showers with hot water and actual soap, Luigi was assigned to Compound C, Barracks 14. The wooden structure contained 40 bunks with thin mattresses and wool blankets, a central coal stove, and electric lights. Luigi claimed an upper bunk, taking in his new reality. 5 days into captivity, the first cultural shock arrived at lunch. Guards marched Compound C to a mess hall seating 300. Luigi expected thin soup and moldy bread, but instead, American cooks served from steel trays in a cafeteria line. Each prisoner received a sectioned metal tray, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, a roll with butter, coffee, and an apple. Luigi stared at the portions, more food than he'd seen in months. Mancini whispered in Sicilian, "They're fattening us for something." Other Italians were suspicious, one man even refusing to eat, convinced it was poisoned, but hunger prevailed. Luigi ate slowly, methodically. The meatloaf, seasoned with pepper and onions, was real meat, not the grey paste he recalled from Africa. Prisoners ate in stunned silence, some weeping, others laughing nervously. An American guard refilled coffee cups, a casual generosity that seemed insane. In Italy, even officers rarely had enough. A routine quickly emerged. Morning roll call at 0700, followed by breakfast. Then work details for camp maintenance or local farms. Italians repaired roads, picked cotton, and maintained equipment. The Geneva Conventions prohibited forced labor in war production, so their tasks were agricultural. They earned 80 cents a day in camp scrip, usable at the canteen for cigarettes, candy, and writing paper. Luigi joined a crew raking gravel paths and painting barracks. The work was light compared to desert combat. Guards supervised without cruelty. Sergeant Patterson from Georgia, who spoke broken Italian learned from his grandmother, sometimes shared cigarettes and jokes. This unexpected kindness confused Luigi more than hostility would have. These were supposed to be enemies. Medical care revealed another layer of baffling abundance. In his second week, Luigi developed an infected blister from new boots. The camp hospital was a dedicated building, staffed by American doctors and medics. A compassionate nurse cleaned his wound with iodine, applied antiseptic cream, and bandaged it properly, as she would any patient. The hospital smelled of disinfectant, not gangrene. Luigi observed other Italian prisoners recovering in clean beds with white sheets. One received dental work, another had his appendix removed. The paradox of Americans expending resources healing enemy soldiers while their own troops fought in Italy seemed economically irrational. Yet the medical staff operated without apparent resentment. A doctor, through an interpreter, even asked Luigi if his bandage was too tight. Luigi, unable to articulate the absurdity, just shook his head. Recreation facilities, accessible in the evenings, were another surprise. The schedule was posted: Monday through Friday, 1800 to 2100, Saturday and Sunday afternoon and evening. Luigi first visited on a Wednesday, following other prisoners. The area had a volleyball court, horseshoe pits, and a building with a small library. Italian classics, German texts, English novels. A pool table in one corner saw awkward games, but Luigi's attention was drawn to a locked door at the building's rear, marked Music and Drama Room. He asked Corporal Mancini, who shrugged. "Some Americans think we're civilized, I guess," a comment laced with bitter irony given Italy's fascist collapse. Luigi spoke to a guard, Private Caruso from Brooklyn, a Sicilian-American whose grandfather immigrated from Palermo. Caruso explained the music room contained instruments for prisoners. "You play anything?" he asked. Luigi admitted to pre-war violin studies in a Bologna orchestra. Caruso suggested, "Talk to Sergeant Williams. He runs the recreation program. Tell him Caruso sent you." 3 days later, Williams, a methodical former high school teacher from Illinois, unlocked the music room for Luigi. The room, about 20 by 30 feet, had wooden floors and acoustic panels, clearly designed for sound. Natural light streamed through high windows. An upright piano stood against one wall, scarred but intact, with sheet music by Puccini, Verdi, and unknown American composers. 3 violins hung in cases, a cello rested in a stand, and trumpets, a clarinet, and a trombone lay on a table. All showed signs of use, but were functional. Williams explained, "Most of this was donated from Oklahoma City churches and schools. Keeps morale up, prevents trouble. If you want to play, sign out an instrument. We're organizing an orchestra." Luigi stood motionless. The disparity between expectation and reality was jarring. He'd been taught Americans were barbaric materialists, concerned only with profit and violence. Yet here was deliberate cultural provision, instruments purchased or solicited, transported and maintained for enemy prisoners. Italy barely fed its soldiers, let alone provided entertainment. In Tunisia, his unit shared one harmonica among 40 men. Now his captors offered violins and pianos. The cognitive contradiction paralyzed him. Williams, perhaps accustomed to such reactions, waited patiently. "Take your time," he said. Luigi's trembled as he lifted a violin case. It opened smoothly to reveal a 3/4 size instrument, older than him but well maintained, strings recently replaced, the bow intact. He lifted it and muscle memory returned, his fingers finding positions on the neck automatically. Williams provided rosine. Luigi rosined the bow, his mind still struggling. He drew the bow across the strings, producing a tentative out-of-tune A note, but the tone was decent. Williams smiled. "Sounds better than when Corporal Dominici tried it yesterday. He thought violins worked like guitars. Williams's casual humor suggested this was normal. "Why?" Luigi asked in halting English, the only word that mattered. Williams understood. Leaning against the piano, he considered. "Orders from Washington, I guess. Geneva conventions require decent treatment, but beyond that," he shrugged. "Command thinks education and culture keep you boys stable. Lot cheaper than dealing with riots or escape attempts. And maybe some folks figure you didn't start this war personal-like. You're just soldiers, same as us." It was a pragmatic, not idealistic explanation, but it revealed an approach to captivity entirely foreign to Luigi. The fascist Italy aimed to break enemies. Americans apparently aimed to contain and manage, viewing POWs as an administrative problem. The cultural gulf was immeasurable. Other prisoners soon appeared: a trumpet player from Milan, 2 Neapolitan opera singers, a Florentine pianist. Sergeant Williams distributed instruments, managed the log, and scheduled practice. By late December, enough musicians gathered for ensemble work. Mrs. Henderson, a retired music teacher from Alva, volunteered as conductor. Arriving twice weekly, this grey-haired woman, though speaking no Italian, communicated through demonstration and musical terms. Under her direction, they attempted Vivaldi, Rossini, and simplified American folk songs. The sound was initially ragged as musicians relearned skills dulled by war, but improvement was swift. Luigi practiced 2 hours daily, losing himself in scales and etudes. The violin became an anchor, a link to his pre-war identity. The cognitive dissonance deepened through January 1944. Luigi wrote letters home on Red Cross stationery, censored by American officers, describing the food, clean barracks, and medical care. He mentioned the music room, though he doubted his family would believe it. His mother's last letter, received months ago in Tunisia, spoke of severe shortages in Bologna. No meat, no coal, bread rationed. The Allies bombed northern Italy systematically. His sister worked in a uniform factory. His father drove a delivery truck on black market gasoline. Luigi's known world was collapsing while he ate meatloaf in Oklahoma and played Vivaldi. Guilt gnawed at him. He was safe while Italy burned, yet powerless as a prisoner. The music became both escape and accusation. By February, the orchestra performed its first concert for fellow prisoners. 200 Italians crowded into the recreation building on a Sunday afternoon. Mrs. Henderson conducted. The program included Vivaldi's 4 Seasons selections, a Rossini overture, and America the Beautiful, arranged for small ensemble. Luigi, playing second violin, concentrated on his part. As the music began, a profound shift occurred in the room. Men who had endured desert combat, Atlantic crossings, and psychological displacement sat quietly, listening. Some closed their eyes, others wept silently. The music connected them to a civilization that persisted beneath the war's destruction, a reminder that beauty endured despite mechanized slaughter. After the final note, silence lingered before applause erupted. Sergeant Williams, arms folded, nodded approval. Mrs. Henderson smiled, her eyes bright. Luigi understood then that he was witnessing something profoundly destabilizing. The Americans weren't providing instruments out of naive kindness or manipulation. They operated from a worldview that saw even enemies as human beings capable of redemption and culture. This perspective was alien to fascist ideology, which divided humanity into superior and inferior, victors and vanquished. Mussolini's Italy subjugated enemies. Roosevelt's America apparently offered them violins. This realization forced Luigi to question everything he'd been taught about democracy, capitalism, and American civilization. If the propaganda about American brutality was false, what else had been lies? This question terrified him, demanding a complete re-evaluation of his world. As he placed his violin back in its case that afternoon, Luigi recognized that captivity was changing him in ways combat never had, reshaping his beliefs through strings, wood, and the permission to create beauty. The soldier who surrendered in Tunisia was gone, replaced by someone who no longer knew what to believe, but felt a fundamental truth had been revealed in that locked room in Oklahoma. A truth he would spend the rest of his life trying to comprehend. June 3, 1944. Luigi Rossi stands in the recreation hall before a bulletin board. Work assignments for Italian POWs at local Oklahoma farms are posted. 75 cents daily, paid in canteen scrip. He traces the words, "wages for enemy soldiers." Fascist newspapers demonized American capitalism as exploitative. Yet, here he sees proof. Captured Italian soldiers earn money for voluntary agricultural labor. This scrip can buy Hershey bars, Lucky Strike cigarettes, Palmolive soap, and writing paper at the camp store. Luigi signs up for cotton picking starting Monday. He knows he could remain in camp, enjoying daily meals, medical care, and recreation without working. No one compels the labor, no punishment for refusal. This reality starkly contrasts with the harsh labor conditions he experienced in fascist Italy, where factory workers subsisted while party officials feasted. The dissonance between fascist propaganda and American reality is profound. That Thursday afternoon, Luigi visits the camp store with $18.75 in scrip earned over 3 weeks. Corporal Miller, a friendly, freckled American from Nebraska, he manages the counter. Months of captivity haven't dulled the strangeness of such casual friendliness. Miller speaks no Italian. Luigi speaks broken English, yet they communicate through gestures. Luigi selects a Gillette safety razor, 3 Milky Way bars, a tin of Prince Albert tobacco, and a writing tablet with envelopes. The total is $4.60. Miller counts out the change in American currency, placing coins in Luigi's palm as if he were any customer. Luigi pockets the money and carries his purchases to the barracks in a brown paper bag. The weight of chocolate and tobacco offers a tangible reminder that even in captivity he has consumer choice. Fascist propaganda never mentioned this. Prisoners were supposed to suffer, not choose between candy bars. Sunday morning, 6 ladies from Alva First Methodist Church arrive at 900 in 2 Ford automobiles, laden with homemade cookies and a portable phonograph playing American popular music. Colonel Morrison, the camp commandant, permits these weekly visits, part of a civilian morale program designed to help POWs adjust to American society. Mrs. Henderson, a white-haired grandmother with gentle hands, attempts conversation with Luigi in slow, careful English. She inquires about his family, then shows him photographs of her own son, serving with the Fifth Army in Italy. The irony hits Luigi hard. Her son fights Italy while she feeds Italian prisoners. She explains, through gestures and simple vocabulary, that her church prays for all soldiers, friend and foe, believing God loves all his children regardless of uniform. Luigi accepts a still warm chocolate chip cookie. Sweetness fills his mouth, confusion his mind. Fascist doctrine preached American spiritual emptiness, yet here is a woman who bakes for her perceived enemies, speaking of universal divine love. As she leaves, she places a maternal hand on his shoulder, a gesture that momentarily bridges battle lines, and Luigi feels his ideological certainty begin to crack. Wednesday afternoon, a baseball game commences on a makeshift diamond behind the administration building. American guards organize teams, mixing POWs and military personnel, teaching the Italians this peculiar American sport. Luigi plays second base on a team captained by Sergeant Davis, a muscular black soldier from Alabama. Davis patiently demonstrates batting technique. Luigi swings awkwardly, missing the ball repeatedly, while teammates shout encouragement in both English and Italian. The casual intermingling stuns him. Black and white American soldiers playing alongside Italian fascists who months prior swore oaths to racial ideology. In Mussolini's Italy, such integration would be unlawful. Yet Davis laughs as Luigi finally connects, sending the ball bouncing toward third base, eliciting cheers for his first American hit. After 9 innings under the Oklahoma sun, Davis shares his canteen water with Luigi. Sweating and exhausted, momentarily freed from racial and national categories, Luigi drinks deeply. He wonders what his former officers would say about sharing water with a black man, playing children's games with the enemy, or finding human fellowship outside fascist frameworks. Friday, June 23rd, the mail arrives. Luigi receives 3 letters from his mother in Naples, written in April and processed through military censors and Red Cross channels. She describes conditions in southern Italy after Allied liberation: German retreat, destroyed infrastructure, and Allied military government efforts to alleviate food shortages. British and American forces distribute rations, establish field hospitals, and repair water systems. Her words directly contradict fascist broadcasts about vengeful Allied occupation. Instead, she recounts the courtesy of New Zealand soldiers clearing rubble, American medics treating civilians without charge, and food distribution centers providing canned beef and powdered milk to hungry Italians. Between the lines, Luigi discerns her growing understanding. The Allies are liberators, not monsters. The fascist promises of victory were lies, and perhaps his capture saved his life. She writes, "I thank God you are with the Americans. Come home safe when this terrible war ends." Luigi rereads these sentences, the paper trembling. His mother's relief at his American captivity exposes the profound depth of fascist deception. She fears German treatment more than American, trusts enemy mercy more than Allied promises. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. His mother, safe in liberated Naples, celebrates Allied humanity, while he, her son in Oklahoma abundance, questions everything he once fought for. Saturday nights, the Camp movie theater screens Hollywood films. This week, Going My Way with Bing Crosby is projected onto a white sheet in the recreation hall. 200 Italian POWs fill the benches, watching an American priest sing, would joke and guide troubled youth in New York City. The film portrays religion not as authoritarian control, but gentle guidance, community not as fascist regimentation, but voluntary cooperation, authority not as brutality, but wisdom. Luigi observes Crosby's character navigate challenges with humor and compassion, starkly different from the harsh discipline of Italian military culture. Around him, POWs laugh, engrossed in this American cultural product that presents a society built on individual dignity, not state worship. During intermission, the camp command distributes popcorn, buttered popcorn, freely given to enemy prisoners watching enemy propaganda for entertainment. Luigi fills his mouth with the salty kernels, recognizing that American propaganda's effectiveness lies in its subtlety. It doesn't feel like propaganda. It merely showcases Americans as human, flawed, kind, and humorous, allowing the contrast with fascist harshness to speak for itself. After midnight, a whispered conversation unfolds in the barracks as other prisoners sleep. Corporal Benedetto, captured at Anzio, shares his intentions. He plans to request permanent residency in America after the war. For 3 months, he's worked on a farm outside Alva, treated fairly by the farmer's family, paid honestly, and even invited to Sunday dinners. He's discovered Oklahoma's fertile soil, the possibility of land ownership for hard-working immigrants, and American democracy's social mobility, impossible within fascist Italy's rigid hierarchy. Benedetto whispers his dream of bringing his wife and daughter to America, starting anew in a country where competence outweighs party membership. Luigi listens, feeling temptation stir. What awaits him in Italy? A devastated country, a discredited ideology, and occupation by forces he now knows are more merciful than his own government. Yet loyalty battles pragmatism. Italy is home, family, identity. Benedetto asks Luigi his plans. Luigi admits he no longer knows. America has exposed fascist promises as hollow. Returning to Italy means confronting the lies he once believed. They talk until 0200 hours, two Italian soldiers contemplating abandoning their homeland for the enemy nation that feeds them chocolate bars and teaches them baseball. Tuesday morning, July 4th, Luigi reports to the camp medical facility with a persistent aching molar. Captain Richardson, a Boston dentist, examines the tooth with modern equipment, electric drills, proper anesthesia, sterilized instruments. He explains the procedure in simple English while preparing a Novocaine injection. The contrast with Italian military dentistry, often rudimentary and brutal, fills Luigi with gratitude and shame. Richardson administers the anesthetic, waits for numbness, then precisely drills out the cavity and fills it with amalgam. The procedure takes 30 minutes. Richardson refuses payment, explaining dental care is included in POW medical services, according to the Geneva Convention. He hands Luigi a toothbrush and powder, demonstrating proper technique, treating Luigi like a child, not an enemy combatant. The paternalism is not insulting, it's genuinely concerned. Richardson schedules a follow-up and wishes Luigi a happy 4th of July. He's seemingly unconcerned that America's independence celebration coincides with free dental care for enemy prisoners. Luigi leaves with a numb jaw and a growing conviction. Americans wage a war that defeats enemies not just with weapons, but by demonstrating the superiority of their values. The Independence Day celebration includes Italian POWs. Colonel Morrison permits their attendance at the camp's 4th of July festivities. A barbecue with beef ribs, corn on the cob, watermelon and apple pie. American guards organize three-legged races and tug-of-war, mixing POWs and military personnel. The camp band plays John Philip Sousa marches, smoke from cooking meat drifting across the compound. Luigi observes Americans celebrating their national founding with abundance and play rather than military parades and speeches. No fascist-style displays of martial power, no compulsory political rallies, just food, games and casual patriotism expressed through shared enjoyment, not enforced ideology. A guard named Patterson approaches Luigi, handing him a plate piled high. 2 beef ribs, buttered corn, potato salad, a slice of pie. Patterson grins. Freedom food, buddy. American way. Luigi accepts the plate, finds a seat, and tears into the ribs as the celebration continues. The irony overwhelms him. He is imprisoned, yet freer than he ever felt serving Mussolini. His captivity offers an abundance his homeland never provided. His enemies treat him with dignity his own government withheld. Finishing the pie, he acknowledges what he can no longer deny. America has already won this war, not through firepower alone, but through the revolutionary idea that even enemies deserve humanity. Throughout August, as news of Allied advances toward Rome, German retreat, and Italian partisan resistance reaches the camp, Luigi's decision gradually forms. He understands the Italy awaiting his return no longer exists. Mussolini's government has collapsed, the king has fled, and the country is fractured between the Allied-occupied south and German-controlled north. Everything he fought for has disintegrated while he ate ice cream and learned baseball in Oklahoma. His mother's letters become more frequent, more desperate, describing hunger, chaos, and pleading for his safety above his swift return. She writes of young men disappearing in the final days of fascist rule, conscripted into futile German defensive operations or murdered by partisans. She thanks God daily that her son is protected by Americans rather than dying uselessly for a regime that betrayed Italy. Luigi carefully folds these letters, storing them under his mattress, recognizing that the war for him has ended, regardless of official peace. He dedicates himself to English language classes, conjugating verbs, memorizing vocabulary. He studies American civics from primers on constitutional democracy and individual rights. He plans a future that may not include Italy, but will undoubtedly be shaped by the American values he has absorbed through captivity. The music continues. Orchestra rehearsals, choir performances, occasional concerts for local civilians who come to hear enemy prisoners sing in Italian and broken English about universal human longing. Through the music, the baseball games, the dental appointments, the movie nights, and the church lady cookies, Luigi Rossi transforms. From fascist soldier, he evolves into something new, unplanned, a transformation that will demand explanation when the war finally ends and the decision of where to call home must be made. On May 8, 1945, news of Germany's unconditional surrender reached Camp Alva, Oklahoma. For Private Luigi Rossi and 2,847 Italian POWs, it brought relief and apprehension. Unlike the German prisoners in an adjacent compound who reacted with despair, the Italians were in a unique situation. Italy had surrendered in September 1943, joining the Allied efforts. Yet thousands of Italian soldiers, captured in North Africa between 1942 and 1943, remained in American custody, their status complicated by Italy's fractured political landscape. The camp commander announced that repatriation would commence within 6 months, with processing starting immediately. Agricultural work visas were an option, though approval was uncertain. Luigi, a violinist, felt a profound internal conflict. His American-provided violin had become his identity during 3 years of captivity. The abundance of prisoner life, regular meals, heated barracks, and rich cultural programs stood in stark contrast to the grim reality of his homeland. Letters from his sister in Rome painted a desperate picture: food shortages, bombed buildings, and the aftermath of German occupation followed by Allied liberation. His family's apartment was damaged, his civil servant father was jobless, and his brother had died fighting for Mussolini's Republic of Salo. Luigi was one of approximately 51,000 Italian POWs held across the United States. Unlike German prisoners who were mandated to return home, some Italians with essential agricultural skills were offered opportunities to remain temporarily due to acute labor shortages. Luigi, a musician, not a farmer, applied for a visa but was denied. On October 3, 1946, he, along with 847 other Camp Alva POWs, journeyed by truck to New York Harbor. The American landscape, untouched by war's physical destruction, contrasted sharply with Europe. In New York, Luigi boarded the SS Marine Flasher, a converted Liberty ship. The 17-day voyage was reflective, unlike his fearful 1942 Atlantic crossing as a prisoner. Men passed time with cards and letters, sharing anxieties about their return. Luigi, practicing his violin daily, drew crowds, providing solace with Puccini and Verdi. On October 20, 1946, the Marine Flasher entered Naples harbor. The sight was devastating: twisted metal, sunken ships, and hollowed buildings. Allied bombing, German demolitions, and street fighting had reduced the once vibrant city to rubble. Disembarking, Luigi received discharge papers, a small sum of near-worthless lire, and a train ticket to Rome. The train journey north further revealed Italy's devastation: fallow fields, temporary bridges, and towns scarred by war. Reaching Rome on October 23, 1946, Luigi found his family's neighborhood near Trastevere ravaged by Allied bombing. His sister Maria shared a diminished apartment with another family. His mother had died of pneumonia during the German occupation, a treatable illness under better circumstances. His father had aged dramatically. The reunion was emotional yet strained. Luigi's stories of American abundance and cultural opportunities were met with his father's bitter question: how could the enemy treat prisoners better than Italy treated its own citizens? Luigi's accounts of daily 3,000-calorie meals and orchestra performances seemed fantastical against Rome's suffering, where official rations were a mere 1,000 calories. Rome was chaotic. The lira had collapsed, rationing was severe, and black markets thrived. Political violence was rampant, and former fascists faced ostracism. Luigi, who had left as a soldier of Mussolini's empire, returned to a struggling new republic. However, Luigi possessed a unique asset: his violin and enhanced skill from 3 years of consistent practice and American instruction. Within weeks, he successfully auditioned for the Rome Symphony Orchestra, then rebuilding after war-related losses. Maestro Giuseppe Antonelli, recognizing Luigi's talent, welcomed him. Luigi's first performance with the orchestra in December 1946 at the partially restored Teatro dell'Opera, playing Verdi's La Forza del Destino overture, overwhelmed him with emotion, contrasting deeply with his Camp Alva performances. In 1948, Luigi married Anna Marchetti, a pianist from the orchestra. They had 3 children between 1949 and 1955. Luigi enjoyed a steady career as a professional musician, supplementing his orchestra income with lessons and radio performances. The family lived modestly but comfortably as Italy's economic miracle unfolded in the 1950s. Luigi never expressed bitterness about his POW experience, sharing positive accounts of Camp Alva's orchestra and American generosity. When asked why he didn't harbor hatred for former enemies, he simply stated his captors treated him humanely. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Luigi corresponded with fellow Camp Alva POWs who had remained in the US: Pietro Baldini, a restaurateur in Tulsa, and Antonio Ricci, a fruit-packing manager in California. Their letters spoke of prosperity that Italy, despite its recovery, couldn't match. Though Luigi wondered about staying, he expressed no regret. He performed with the Rome Symphony Orchestra until his mandatory retirement in 1976 at 60, continuing to teach violin privately. His final recital in 1987 for family and friends featured the same American-made violin he brought home. Luigi Rossi died on March 15, 1988, at 72. His obituary noted his musical career but omitted his wartime experience. His violin and Camp Alva documents were donated to the Museum of the Liberation of Rome, rarely displayed. The story of Italian POWs in America is a largely overlooked chapter of World War II. Unlike the extensively documented experiences of 375,000 German POWs, the 51,000 Italian prisoners received less historical attention until the 1990s. This differentiated treatment reflected America's acknowledgement of Italy's 1943 surrender and subsequent co-belligerent status. Post-September 1943, Italian POWs were reclassified as Italian service units, gaining privileges like off-post work details, cultural programs, and recreation, unthinkable for German prisoners. Musical instrument programs, particularly at Camp Alva, were a deliberate psychological warfare strategy. But the War Department aimed to foster positive views of America, influencing Italy's post-war political alignment. Facing strong Italian communist and socialist movements, American officials hoped repatriated POWs would act as informal ambassadors, countering Soviet influence. Camp Alva excelled in cultural programs from 1943 to 1946, featuring an orchestra, theater, and art classes. Instruments were funded by the War Department and Oklahoma civic groups, with local teachers volunteering instruction. The camp's Italian newspaper documented these activities. This approach significantly impacted post-war POW treatment doctrine. The success of cultural programs in boosting morale, reducing escapes, and cultivating positive attitudes became a key study at the Command and General Staff College. The 1949 Geneva Convention revisions, influenced by the American experience with Italian prisoners, explicitly encouraged cultural and educational activities for POWs. Today, this history is preserved in several museums. The Fort Reno Visitor Center near former Camp Alva features an exhibit on Italian POWs, including orchestra photographs and instruments. The National World War II Museum in New Orleans incorporates Italian POW experiences into its home front narrative. Academic research saw a surge in the 1990s and 2000s, with works like Flavio Conti's 1992 study, I prigionieri di guerra italiani negli Stati Uniti, and Maurizio Marinelli's 2004 dissertation on Camp Alva's cultural programs. Documentaries, including Italy's 2010 Prigionieri della Libertà and America's 2015 The Good War, also explored this topic. These productions confirmed Luigi Rossi's experience as typical for a significant portion of Italian POWs who returned home with unexpectedly positive views of America. Surveys in 1947 and 1948 showed 60% of repatriated Italian POWs from American camps held favorable opinions of the US, a remarkably high percentage given wartime propaganda. This history underscores the strategic value of humane prisoner treatment. Italian POWs returning home became a constituency resistant to anti-American propaganda during the critical early Cold War, when Italy's political future was uncertain. Their personal experiences countered Soviet and communist narratives of American brutality. The stark contrast between Italian POW experiences in America and Allied POW experiences in Japanese or German camps is instructive. While Americans offered instruments and cultural programs to Italian prisoners, Allied prisoners in Japanese camps faced starvation, disease, and forced labor, leading to over 25% mortality. This differential treatment reflected not just Geneva Convention adherence, but fundamentally different philosophies of warfare and human dignity. Modern military ethics training uses these historical comparisons to illustrate both legal obligations and the strategic advantages of proper POW treatment. Stories like Luigi Rossi's demonstrate that humanity toward captives is not a weakness, but a powerful tool for psychological influence and post-conflict reconciliation. Luigi's experience revealed how cultural respect and human dignity could transform enemies into potential allies. The American provision of musical instruments was a small gesture with profound implications about values. For Luigi, that violin symbolized civilization enduring through war, a lesson he carried home and passed on through 4 decades of teaching and performance.